And good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tabacco Show. I am joined once again by my good friend, Mr. Jonathan M. Carney. Smokin Nicole is absent tonight, but we welcome on our very special guest, once again, from Aganorsa Leaf, Mr. Terence Reilly. Terence, how are you, buddy?
Oh, good. No, now it's a downer. I mean, again, Nicole's not here, but we have Terrence. It's like, oh, you don't get the Porsche, you get the washer machine. I mean, that's not really kind of like the booby prize in the contest here.
Hey, we take what we can get.
I mean, listen, Terence. I was excited. I'm always excited to have Terence on the show. You're a great time.
Thank you.
You keep it fun in the airport photo contest for Cigar Coop. Shout out.
Right.
You are arguably one of the tallest men in the cigar industry, which is also a plus. And you really know your shit, so you make good conversation. So that's always a plus side to have you on the show. Nicole just wasn't feeling well, so she didn't make it on today. But no, Terrence is here. You were with us almost a year ago. I want to say
about a year.
Around the same time. So it's
Yeah.
been you're due, I guess, for your second appearance. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I figured tonight, we could talk a little bit about, what you guys got going on at Aganorsa Leaf, but we also talk about, PCA, all of us a little bit. We talked about it last week. Nicole and I were live from Las Vegas. Obviously, LFD was not there, but John has given us a lot of good input on kind of the outside looking in. Terrence, I know you were there. We saw you. We interviewed you. We had, had little conversations here and there, and so I'm sure you can give us some input too, and kind of like what your thoughts are on some things, but. Other than that, guys, welcome to the show. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a great time. John, what do you got going on over there, bub?
There's a couple things I want to set straight here from the beginning because we really covered both sides of a lot of arguments last week, whether people felt like we did or not. One of the things that we touched upon was influencers that were at the show. The concern with people being at the show that were influencers or alternative media. Well, there was no issue with them being there. It was how they got in. It was not by being a member of the association or a media member or an influencer member. The issue was that they weren't a paying member. They came in through somebody else. That was the concern and discussion that we had. Now, we also said on that side, too, in the conversation last week, we did talk, and when I speak, it's on behalf on the show, on behalf of Smokin Tabacco, we did discuss how it was, at the end of the day, the manufacturer's job to filter out who and who isn't going to waste their time. Like, I know with you, Terrence, if you have somebody that comes up and they're going to waste your time, I usually send them along. I don't know if you say the same thing. Hey, I'm honest. Hey, I'm busy right now. I'm not going to have an opportunity to talk. If I have some downtime and I happen to be available when you come by, yes, but I'm really busy. I say that all the time.
Sure.
So it is our job as manufacturers to filter through that. So if manufacturers were complaining about influencers or media or alternative media or anyone that was in attendance wasting their time, that's on them.
Sure.
You're responsible for your time and your business, and that's what you get paid for, and that's what I get paid for. But I know there was some heated discussion on that. So if you felt like Smokin Tabacco was being whiny or this and that, we covered both sides of it. It was very fairly, and the big issue that we had was people that weren't paid for it. But we did determine that it was ultimately, at the end of the day, the responsibility of the manufacturers to spend that time, and that's what I would say to people. I've had that discussions with certain other things in the business before, and I've told people, like, you're responsible for that. That's your job. Figure it out.
Yeah. Own it.
So, yeah. So other than that, but no, tonight I just got back to Maine. I flew into Portland today, and then I'm up here in Lincoln now. So I don't have my Aganorsas with me, which is coincidentally probably my number 2 favorite Nicaraguan tobacco. And the only reason I say number 2 is it would be number 1. I've been a Padron smoker for like 20 years, and it's just really hard.
We sell
to jump.
tobacco, so we could kind of in that.
Yeah. So, but I've always been a big fan of that. But my personal affinity towards those cigars. I really do think Aganorsa's got some of the best tobacco, if not the best tobacco, coming out of Nicaragua right now. It's very well fermented. It's not super front spice heavy. Really smooth tobacco. However, I'm smoking an LFD L400 today. So I got LFD L400, and we can find this one at our friends at 2guyscigars.com. They got the Ligero line on there, And I believe they also have the Aganorsas as well. So what are you smoking today that they could find on Two Guys Cigars?
So I actually.
You're talking to Matt. Oh,
Yeah,
Matt.
yeah, I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Both of you.
Yeah, go ahead, Terrence. I'll let you go first. Terrence,
Stan.
by the way, we can't see you. Your video is showing up as non-existent right now.
Why
I can see him.
do I have to?
You can see him? I can't see him. It's
You
just
see me now?
I get the Skype logo
Nope.
with the blue and the. That's all I see right now.
What about now?
Nope.
Yeah, somebody sent me a note that they can't see me. Still
Yeah,
nobody can
on
see
the
me?
on the live broadcast we can't see you. I just get the Skype
I
logo.
could see you. No, I can't see you.
How do we fix that? I never heard of this before.
I'm
I don't
not
know,
sure here.
but we could start by you telling me what you're smoking, Terrence.
Yeah, I
sorry,
just
sorry.
yeah, you
I'm
can. I just wanted to
smoking
make that aware.
Well, that's not good. I'm having actually an anniversary, which I don't more of the ones we released, which will be coming out shortly from PCA. So I'm smoking one from we did as a PCA exclusive 2 years ago. It's a box pressed Perfecto, and I'm lighting that up and enjoying it very deliciously. And looking forward to the new Maduro ones that'll be coming and will be available to you guys.
So, it's funny. You did another anniversario cigar. You did a special anniversario cigar for your 40th birthday, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I turned 40 in May, and it's called the TR40. And it was just I made cigar. We didn't sell them or anything. I made 40 bundles of 10, just when I run into friends and people I know, and I haven't seen. I actually, Matt, did I get you one?
The TR40?
TR40?
No, I didn't. Not yet.
I guess I don't like you that much. No, I
guess not.
I'll, next time I run into you, I still have got like about 6 or 7 bundles left.
All right.
And Carney as well, but it was just a blend I liked, and it was the size I liked, and again, you only turn 40 once, so that was the idea, just to have something nice to smoke. There's no band on it or anything. It's got a nice little label that says TR40, greatest day of our lives. That's it.
So,
Can
Carney,
anyone see me yet? Or
we can
what?
see you now.
see you.
We can see you. We can
You're
see
back.
you.
You're back, baby.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry, you're back,
Back.
baby. Carney, that sounds
back,
like something
baby.
you would do for your 40th. You do some with like fancy, non-public release bundle kind of thing. But it wouldn't be, like Terrence did a good job with that. The TR40 was classy. It was special. It was elegant.
That's me, all class.
It's the Terence Reilly way. Carney would come out with like this over-the-top like bundle inside like a meat crate or something like that, and it would be like branded and be like Carney Smokes, happy
And it would be
40th
great.
fuckers, something like that with the American flag. It would be like
So
would be over the top.
I'd love it.
I got a blend that I'm working on for my daughter. So she's due in October. So we do have a special blend I'm going to be putting together for that.
What? Wait. Rewind that back a second here. You have a daughter coming?
Dude, you didn't know that?
Terrence, you didn't know he's got a bun in the oven. You didn't know that?
Yeah.
Man, congratulations. I don't know how I missed
thank
this.
you. I swear I told you.
No, you didn't tell me this.
Oh, I'm embarrassed that I hadn't told you, especially since it's live here on the show.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. No, I got a little girl on the way. She's due in October. So we're on the way there. We're at the home stretch, but we are doing. Yeah, sorry. I swear I told you. I was thinking when we were talking here. I don't think I've seen you since like March.
Yeah, I remember we were at Galliano. I think we were
Yeah.
hanging out a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, John.
Which is strange because you're one of the people that I generally see on a basis outside of just regular cigar stuff.
Yeah.
But in the cigar wise, I haven't seen you for just regular cigar business things either. So yeah, no, little girl on the way. Special cigar coming for her, and absolutely, I'm going to make a special cigar when I turn 40. That's what you do. You only turn 40 once, and if you're in these positions that we're in, you got to have some perks, right? You got to be able to have one perk.
Yeah.
And
I can't wait for it. I can't wait to smoke it already. I'm already thinking about it.
John, I just wanted to touch on really quickly because we left out what I was smoking, and I have something that I was just talking to Terrence about. I have the Aganorsa Buena Cosecha. Is that how you say it, Terrence?
Buena cosecha.
Yeah. So this is a cigar that was given to me by a friend. and I found it in my humidor this week, and I knew you were coming on, and I said I'm gonna save this for Thursday. So I'm really excited about this, and so far it's really good. I don't believe that I don't believe they have it at twoguyscigars.com, but having said that, they do sell Aganorsa Leaf, JFR, and all the fun stuff that you guys make.
Rare leaf. They're a select account.
They get the rare leaf. That's right. They get the Supreme Leaf, right?
Yep, and they got a whiskey edition we have coming out with
Single Cask Nation. Yep,
that'll be coming out on Monday. So lots of good stuff from Two Guys.
So even though they don't have this cigar, guys, head over to twoguyscigars.com and check out everything that they have for Aganorsa Leaf, JFR, the Single Cask Nation is coming out. They have the Rare Leaf, the Supreme Leaf, all that fun stuff. Don't forget to check that out. The number 2guyscigars.com.
By the way, so when we first started having Two Guys as one of the partners with us and affiliates with us with the show, the first show we did, we had some volume issues, and when we went to do the pitch, with the Two Guys information on it and kind of the segment that we have with it, it muted right when we went to the advertisement. So I was sitting with Dave Garofalo shortly after. And he's like, oh, I didn't want to bring this up, but it kind of muted. So I feel like every show now that I've been on that I'm like, man, I got to make up for that first show. So hopefully, this is being good bang for the buck.
I know. I felt horrible, too, because it was that first time we were doing it. And for whatever reason that day, we had some I don't want to say major, but we had more than usual technical issues. We usually don't have really many, and it just that happened to be the day. And out of all the parts where the audio got messed up on the recording, it was like that one slot, and it's like you hear the show, and then you hear like right after it, and you don't even hear the whole segment, and it's almost like it sounds like the segment was cut out, like specifically, but it really didn't. It just that's where like the feed kicked out and the recording got choppy, and it was just like, of course, out of all places, it could have dropped out. It couldn't have dropped. Why didn't it just drop out on the soap review? I mean, no, I'm just kidding. John wasn't even on that episode.
so similar kind of on the topic of cigars here. I think a lot of people in the cigar industry and our viewers are familiar with you. If you're not, we'll have you tell us a little bit of what you do and where you're at with that. But I think one of my favorite Aganorsas I've always had, I believe it's the Aganorsa Signature. It's a little. Am I accurate in that?
It's you cut out for 1 second. It's a little what?
The Avo Signature, not the Avo Signature. Sorry, the Aganorsa Signature. It's the one with the white label, the silver on it. That's a Connecticut shade. Is that accurate?
So it's a Corojo actually. It's a Corojo, but it's a Claro. It's a very light. It gets confused as a Connecticut all the time because it's very very light.
The reason I brought that up is because it's one of my favorite milder cigars to smoke, and the reason why I like it is because it's not crazy in body, but it's got a ton of rich flavor to it. And the question I was going to ask was to say, how do you all get that much flavor out of a Connecticut shade wrapped cigar? And it's because it's not.
And it's not one. Well, though our Aganorsa Connecticut which is a Cigar Authority Cigar of the Year winner.
Fantastic cigar. That's one of my all-time favorites.
That cigar, I'm going to try to throw a bone to Dave every time I get a chance. It's very much like that. It's got a lot of body. It's one of our best sellers, and it's just that nice mix of not being aggressive, with not being just paper thin, and just really balanced. And you can smoke them anytime. It's one of my favorites. So.
Yeah, the Connecticut specifically was one of the first, was among the first cigars I ever had, premium cigars. And I just remember I loved that cigar. It was right around the time they gave it, it was right before they gave it Cigar of the Year. It was when I first had it. And that's actually the cigar that kind of led me into Aganorsa Leaf. And I just remember being like, wow, it's so creamy. And it's flavorful, but it's not too over the top, and I really enjoy, especially at the time being a somewhat newer smoker. I really liked it, and that was the cigar that someone said, "Hey, you got to try this," and I tried it and I loved it, and that's what made me want to navigate through the rest of Aganorsa Leaf. And it's funny, we say this all the time. There's so many great cigars out there that we all know and love that we enjoy to smoke, and sometimes you forget about them, not because they're not memorable, but as you guys know, there's so many cigars on the market, and you're always smoking different things. But it's like that's one of those cigars that when it comes back up, I'm like, shit, I need to get my hands on some of those because I don't have any right now, and they are so good, and I really miss that experience that I had every time I have those, and it brings me back to the first time, which I think is what's really special about cigars. You think about, at least for me, maybe not every time, maybe not every cigar, but there's certain cigars when I smoke it every time, even if I smoke it 100 times, I always go back to that first time I had it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember when I first lit it up and I first tried it, and I was like, wow, this is a really good cigar, and it always brings me back to that like happy place, and that's a cigar that's when I have that, that's kind of where I go with that. So I'm glad you guys brought that up. That's an awesome cigar. But Terence, tell us a little bit about, I guess for the viewers and listeners at home who are listening us on podcast medium, tell us a little bit about, I guess, your background. I know you've been on the show before, but maybe we have some new listeners, people who are new to Aganorsa Leaf. Give them the Terence Reilly elevator pitch.
Sorry, well, how much time do we have here?
We got plenty of time.
Well, thank you all for joining. That's the end of our show today.
Bye, guys. No. So Terence Reilly is about as gringo name as you can possibly have. But my father, he on his mother's side, they're Spanish, and Cuban. It depends who you ask. They sometimes call themselves Cubans. Oftentimes call themselves Spaniards. But my grandmother was from Spain, but her family was in the tobacco business, and they were living in Cuba until they donated all their property to Castro very generously. And they were in the tobacco. They were tobacco brokers. They bought tobacco from farmers and sold it. And Manuel Quesada is my uncle. And when I was younger, I spent the summer in the factory working for him, just kind of for fun, to have a good time and live, in the Dominican Republic for a summer when I was a lot younger. And then I really enjoyed it. I didn't even smoke cigars at the time, but I was kind of like, oh wow, man, this is really incredible. I'd go over to my uncle's house on a Sunday, and we'd play cards and have some drinks and have lunch and smoke cigars. And I was like, there's something really special about this. And then you see the whole process of making cigars and how much time and effort it takes to make it come out right. That guy puts too much glue on the band and it tears the wrapper. And the guy doesn't say, well, everyone did their job except this one guy. He goes, I got a bad cigar. I got a dud. So everybody's got to do their job right, which is a lot of people, obviously. And so I was really interested in that. And I kind of fell in love with the business and cigars. And a few years later, my uncle gave me the opportunity to work for him. And I worked at Quesada for many years. And then 4 years ago, I came to Aganorsa, and I was brought in. They're them and Plasencia are the largest growers of tobacco in Nicaragua. And they sell tobacco to Fuente, to Padron, to Drew Estate, to the new J.C. Newman, to so many great companies. And then they also manufacture so many great brands for other people: Lugion Foundation, Warped, Viaje, HVC, and so on and so forth. And then they had their own brands, which were not really as well known. And that to me was an interesting issue because they were vertically integrated. They obviously had great tobacco. The cigars they were making for other people were highly successful. The tobacco they sold to other people, were successful companies. And they just didn't have the notoriety that I thought they deserved. And the cigar you're smoking actually was like the best example of that. That's that Bueno Cosecha. At the time, it had a different band on it. It looked kind of like something that like you'd see in a Chinese restaurant. And they handed that to me when I was talking with them, and I was kind of like, "This is what you're handing me to impress me with your company." It just the name was difficult to say in English, and then it had a funny looking band on it. And I said, "Well, okay," but I smoked it, and it was really incredible. It was an amazing cigar, and I was like, "Wow, this is very different and delicious." And they have the tobacco, they have the cigars. They just need people to know about them. And the best cigar you've never heard of is one you don't smoke. So my job was to kind of preach the gospel and explain what we're doing and work with our retail partners and sales reps and consumers and really present that Aganorsa is different because of the processes we use, and we have a unique flavor that's not like anything else. And that message has been generally successful, and we're still got a ways to go, but here we are today. I hope that wasn't too long. Hopefully there's a couple listeners left.
No. That was really good. Aganorsa Leaf is a very successful, brand. They're at least in our neck of the woods and everywhere we've traveled to. I see them all over shelves. We've smoked a lot of them. Big fans of a lot of the different lines. As I've said. I know that you guys have some new stuff that you guys have coming out right now. Actually, one thing before I get to those, I do want to mention. So you guys had done the Miami anniversary. I don't know if it was the same or if you did something a little different, but you guys did. Took part in the limited releases for the Great Smoke.
Yes.
Was that a different blend just for them, or was that the?
So last summer we did the first Anniversario Maduro. It was a 109 head, a slight taper.
Yes.
And so that was highly successful. Again, it made Miami. It was only 250 boxes, and so we took that blend and we did it in a Toro 6 1/4 by 52 for the Great Smoke. And that was Abe did a great job of getting that in people's hands. And then now this summer we've done it again in 2 more sizes. That were one size was a PCA exclusive and one size was for our Aganorsa Select partners. And so if you were an Aganorsa Select partner and you were at the PCA, you could get both. But if you were a Select partner or you were at the PCA, you could at least get one or the other.
Yeah, I got one of the packs from Smokin from the Great Smoke event, and I have to say it's fantastic. I mean, it's a little bit different than what I normally smoke from Aganorsa Leaf, but it's really good. And I think I have like 5 left. I think it was a 10-count bundle, right?
10 count, yeah.
I think I have 5 left.
I completely agree with you too, because I'm usually not even a Maduro guy, and not that I don't like Maduros, but it's not my go-to, and certainly not for our cigars.
Right.
But with that particular blend, I was really, really impressed. I thought it was great.
Yeah, because I am a Maduro smoker, but I don't smoke a lot of Maduros from Aganorsa Leaf. A lot of stuff I smoke is Criollo or Corojo or all the other stuff you guys work with, and like the Connecticut, the Aganorsa Leaf Connecticut, like to go in, the Supreme Leaf, but for that cigar being such a much darker cigar, but it was really good. It was different, and I just I guess I kind of went into it with a not like a low expectation, just a different expectation from what I'm used to smoking from Aganorsa Leaf, and I was excited nonetheless. But I tried it, and I was like, wow, this is really different. From what I normally smoke, and it's so good, and I've been enjoying the few that I have. I've really enjoyed them. So I wanted to bring that up because I thought that was another home run. But tell us a little bit more. So you guys have the 4th iteration of the Supreme Leaf coming out that we saw last week in Las Vegas, and you also have the Rare Leaf line that is out now too, and you guys extended that line, correct?
So the Rare Leaf line is it's for our Aganorsa Select partners exclusively, and the idea behind it is when you have a limited edition, there's usually the issue of you only make so many because you have a tobacco that you want to highlight that tobacco, but if you have limited quantities of it, you can only make so many. So you make so many, and then the guy goes to the shop and says, "I love that cigar. I want another box." He can't get another box. He's mad at me. The customer is looking in other stores for the product. And then the alternative is you dilute it and you make more. And when you do that, the guy goes, well, this doesn't taste the same and it's not as good. And then they're still upset with you. So the idea with the Rare Leaf was to make the limitation on it through who we sold it to. And so with the Rare Leaf, it's only available to our Aganorsa Select partners, of which 2 guys is one. And the idea with that was to have basically 10% of our retailer partners have access to it. And again, if they order 50 boxes of each, they're not going to get that anytime soon, but they'll eventually get it. And so they have that confidence of having this product that utilizes tobaccos that are in shorter supply or only come from certain farms or certain lots on certain farms, and be able to get it again and again without diluting the product.
Yeah, the Rare Leaf I've had, and I'll be honest with you, because I told you this before. The first time I remember I had it, I was all excited because I was like, I was coming out, and I saw it, and I was like, wow, I was all excited. I'm like, this is gonna be good, and I had it, and I got it at one of my local shops, and I remember I went up and I had it in the lounge, and I just remember being like, it's a lot different than I expected, and it wasn't crazy about it. And then I went down to Miami. Nicole and I were in Miami a few months ago. We came to Aganorsa. We hung out with you for a little bit. And we smoked it again, and I just remember being like, okay, now this is way different, and I loved it. And And I think it's like we talked about this before. Cigars change, and especially during shipments, they come to Miami. Then this was actually when it was much colder out, so it goes from hot at Miami up to cold temperatures and dry in New Hampshire at the time. And I think that's important to note that cigars can change. And John, I mean, you can speak on this too. With LFD, I'm sure that you guys have both heard this before with other cigars. You guys get stuff in, you ship it out, it tastes different. I know, like, one of the things they're talking to other people about, PCA, for example, is a lot of people will be like, you go to PCA, you try samples, especially as a retailer, you buying stuff, you try stuff, you smoke it, and it tastes a certain way, you buy it, you get the shipment into the store, you open it up, you light it, and you're like, this is different than what I smoked at the show. Which I think is interesting. Cigars, you can have different, experiences and flavors and changes and stuff like that.
I'm going to tell you something. And I won't point fingers and whatnot, but a really popular flavor profile in the premium cigar industry over the last, I'd say, 13 to 14 years has been really front-forward spice on the front of your palate. And this is not negative, and this is why I have a hard time bringing it up, because people think it's negative. I'm not trying to be mean.
Right.
The way you get that front-forward spice is through fermenting the tobacco less, or using the term under-fermenting. It's not bad. It's just a technique of doing that. So one of the biggest things I hear is, brands that tend to have that, when those tobaccos age, they're like, well, it loses all its flavor. It doesn't. It just gets more refined flavor, in my opinion, if it's good tobacco. And it would have that if it was fermented for a longer period of time in the cigar. I personally tend to enjoy that. And you've really probably seen, in my opinion, the last 6 or 7 years, you've seen that flavor profile come back where people want that fermented, that smooth spice on the finish instead of right in the attack on the front of your palate. And I'll say that's one of the things that Aganorsa does very, very well is they're very complex, very refined, and mature tobaccos that are put in there. And I very rarely, if ever, have had anything that's really attacked me and been aggressive on the front of my palate.
Yeah, and
to Matt's point, like what you're saying, John, just to piggyback on that, like with fermentation. Another thing, and Daniel Nunez taught me this, is that like tobacco, when it shifts temperatures heavily, again going back to that kind of getting acclimated to the environment,
right?
It is when they would ship tobacco up to Connecticut from Dominican Republic, it would go through what was called winter sweat, where it would like the cold would produce a fermentation, and so you can actually, when you ship cigars and it's in a cold climate, it can kind of trigger a little bit of that, and so you can get kind of spice and pepper that you wouldn't get otherwise. That's why we always recommend putting the cigars in the humidor, before you're putting them out, let them acclimate for a week or two. And I always thought, when Daniel told me that story, I was like, that sounds kind of crazy. But I remember once shipping an old box to a guy when I was at Casada. The box was at least 10 years old. And we just happened to have like a box left, and he had a customer looking for it, and we shipped it to him. And the guy got all happy, opened the box, smoked one. He's like, "Did you just make these cigars?" And we were like, "That box has been in there for 10 years. We haven't made that brand in 10 years." And he's like, "Man, they just taste like they're fresh, And I was like, "No, it's that's when I really knew that story was true. Is that like we just shipped it up? We shipped them to Chicago, been on a UPS truck in the freezing cold, didn't put it on the shelf, just opened it up when you got the box, and it just, it was not right. You got to have the right conditions."
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up specifically because, I experienced that. And that was one of the first times that it happened to me and I really noticed it. And because I was so excited to, try Real Leaf. And I remember being like, oh, this is strange. It was so power forward and it was so peppery. And I was like, I didn't anticipate it being so peppery. And then I came down to Miami and we were at the office with you and we had it. And I was like, okay, like this cigar is fucking fantastic. Like this is nothing like the other one I had. And it's just, it triggered for me. I'm like, huh. Yeah, I mean, I had that same like realization, like, oh yeah, that is, something that can happen. Because then after that, I was like, wow, the Rare Leaf is fantastic, and it really changed for me. Once and I think that's another reason why it's important to mention. It's so important when you try something new. It's hard to just smoke it once, and if you don't like it, just write it off. Be like, nope, sucked. Because there's like it's something like this, or there's so many variables that go. You should really try a cigar multiple times before you completely write it off. Especially if it's.
I like that you think that way. But the reality is, if
no one does.
The first time, you're dead. There's very few people that will smoke a cigar one time, not like it, and never smoke it again. Some people do, and God bless them. But like that's one of the challenges I think that we face is that like you really people's attention spans are short, and there's a lot of great cigars, and if you don't get them that first time, it's very hard. Again, I mean, even for yourself, I mean,
Yeah.
like you happened to come down to Miami, and you were sitting with us, and it just worked out that way. We had the opportunity to get in, so that's why. Again, it just shows you how many things are beyond your control. I mean, you know, you don't control necessarily sometimes the temperature conditions of things, and you don't control, you know, a lot of aspects. Plus, I'll tell you this. There's no guy that ever smoked a cigar and was like, you know what, my wife filed divorce papers with me today and I got fired and I lit up this cigar and it was delicious. Like nobody has ever said that. So you're also competing with the environment and
Yeah.
who the person's with. So there's so much that goes into it. But I mean, and that's why we on our end have to do everything we can to minimize, you know, the risks that we have, whether that's construction or flavor or fermentation or whatever it is, because there's so many things that can happen that are just beyond your control that can negatively affect an experience.
Absolutely, I think that's really well said, Terrence. And I wanted to use that as an example because I thought it was a really important message to spare and to send. And you know, yeah, and I'm trying. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get people to try you guys multiple times. Two brands I really like. You got to get on Aganorsa and LFD. I mean, come on, guys. Let's go. But having said
LFD's
that,
fine. LFD's fine. They don't even need any new people.
yeah, no. LFDs, they got.
There's a waiting list to be an LFD smoker.
There's a waiting list.
Yeah, they don't let anybody in that club. They're at another level.
So you know how like at like the trade show, like there was a few booths that had signs. Like I know Fuente had one. It was like, oh, at this time, we're not taking on new accounts, just because it's hard for us. LFD, if they were there, would have had. We're not taking on new accounts or new consumers at this time. It would be both.
So it was a funny comment. I had an event sometime in the last year. I had an event. I won't say where it was, but sometime in the last year I had an event, and I go to this shop, and obviously we have the Andalusian Bull, which is impossible to get your hands on. We can't make enough of them. We're not going to over make it, so we have a quality issue. But so I get there to the event, and the retailer is giving a discount on the box, and I'm like, I can't make enough of these things. You can't get enough of them, and now that they're here, we're discounting them. He's like, well, the guy says, well, I can't tell my members no. And I said, what do you mean you can't tell them no? I was like, I've been telling people no. I go for 8 years.
Yeah,
I was like, let
me tell you, I'm an expert on no.
Really easy.
That's awesome.
That's so funny.
He looks at me and he's like, well, I guess if you want to. I'm like, dude, do it. I'm like, it's just it makes no sense.
Yeah.
So we touched a little bit on the PCA show. Oh yeah, actually, before we do that, I forgot. I have something for you, John. Last week we told you we had a present for you, and you got all excited.
Oh, nice.
But I actually have it with me. So we were at the Hiram Solomon booth at PCA, and in the corner of that booth there was a woman there, wonderful woman, and she makes cigar pokers, and it's kind of like her thing, and she hand makes them all herself. And so I mentioned that, we told her who we were, and I mentioned, that John Carney is a very dear, close friend of mine, and I'm tight with him, I'm tight with the brass at Love Lord Dominicana. And she got all excited, and she's like, really? And I was like, yeah, I know that guy. And she's like, well, she goes, I need you to give him something for me. And I said, that depends. What is it? She's like, well, it's a poker. And she goes, my favorite cigar of all time is the Andalusian Bull. All time. That's like her, that's her shit. She's like, boom, she can't get enough. And she goes, I actually made a poker called the Bull, and it's green. And she goes, I'm going to give this to you for free as a gift for John Carney. So I have it with me.
Wow.
And I have to get it to you. And I will, because I'm honored. I'm going to hold it up. I don't know if the camera will blur, but I'm going to get a little close, but it's right here.
Beautiful.
It's got green. It's got skulls on it. A little hanging charm with a skull on it. Real sharp, too.
Stunning.
And it's a beautiful piece of art.
Wow.
And this is for you.
Thank you.
From our
Thank
friends
you,
at
and thank you to you.
From our friends at Blue Smoke Atlanta.
I actually have another one that she's from Atlanta, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have another one. I have a New England Patriots poker that I picked up from her.
Oh, really?
In Atlanta last year in August. So I've actually met her before. I cannot remember her name, But she does make some great pokers, and I apologize that I don't. But I look forward to that. I'm rolling through town next week. I'll be down in Rhode Island on Wednesday, so maybe we'll connect up Tuesday night and hit the Kowloon
Oh
and
yeah.
exchange pokers.
Oh yeah, we have to do that. Oh yeah, well we can do that. And I have this here for you. It's beautiful. And as she told me, she said this is for John. It's very special. It's called the Bowl. The Bowl is my favorite cigar of all time, and so she said John has to have this. So Nicole just went and grabbed it. So this is for you, and
I'm very honored. Thank you.
you should be. And seriously, it's really, she got some really cool stuff. But having said that, so we were at the show last week. Terence was there with Aganorsa. Let me see. How do we want to start this conversation? So, I mean, we're kind of on different sides. You know, Terence was there as an exhibitor, as a manufacturer. We were there as media, so we kind of had different roles at the show. But Terence, I'll just start off with this. You know, how did your experience at this year's trade show go in terms of, you know, your expectations and, you know, in terms of the business you guys did and the traffic that came through the booth, and just, you know, how, you know, in compared to years past, you know, how did this show stack up?
So I had pretty good expectations, quite frankly, because 2 years ago at the last one, 19, that everyone said was like the worst show of all time. We had a great show. It was a really great show for us. And so I was kind of looking at that and saying, okay, that was 2 years ago. It was kind of a poorly attended show. There was a lot of concern about FDA at the time. That deadline was coming up. And now you take away 4 very large manufacturers who probably take a full day combined and average $100,000 from those retailers, and you free up that time and money. And we've grown since 2019. So I was pretty positive it was going to be a good show for us. I would say it was better than what we expected, primarily because I thought day one we would have a great day, and we did. Day two was almost as busy as day one. So I was like, okay, yeah, that's, you know, this is good. And I expected, you know, bowling day 3 and day 4, but day 3 we were almost as busy as day 1 and 2, and I haven't seen that in a long time. And then day 4 is always, you know, pretty much dead. I mean, I think we had like 10 orders the whole half day of day 4, which is always kind of meta day. But it was the best show that I've ever had in my professional career. So we were really happy with it in that sense. In terms of all the other stuff and in the long-term future of the show and what needs to be done and everything like that. Listen, obviously there needs to be things that happen to make, you know, trade shows are a difficult thing as time goes on, post-COVID especially. But I thought they did a really good job with the circumstances of doing the best they could to get people there, and the retailers, I have to say, that showed up. They were all there to buy. They were all supportive. So I thought it was great. I think it's just a matter of making sure that in the future, you know, things evolve and improve and grow so that we can continue to do this.
Yeah, I mean, walking around the show, you know, Nicole and I, we passed by your booth hundreds of times, and I just remember always being like, "Oh, what's Terrence up to?" And then being like, "That booth's full. We'll talk to him later." You know, I mean, we had time when we came to talk to you, but those other times I wanted to pop in, kind of, you know. But I'm like, nope, he's busy. I mean, that booth was rocking. So I mean, I think you guys did a really good job. So I mean, that's always good to hear. You know, we got to see, you know, the new stuff on display, and although you guys had a really beautiful booth. Well, that's good. You know, I mean, I would say not every booth had the same experience as we talked about a little bit last week, John. I think you remember. And Terrence, you probably know what I'm talking about. There was a few booths who didn't have quite the same exhilarating excitement and decided to pack up early and head on home.
Really?
Yeah. Did you not?
There was some stuff that did. I don't want to say the names anymore because
no, don't even say the names. I don't.
No.
I talked about it, and I said like, halfway through it, I was like, dude, I go, brother, they didn't want to be there. I go, so they shouldn't have gone. I go, to try to make some sort of a point. I was like, we're spending too much time. We're giving them too much credit for even discussing it any further. So we just stopped. And it was like, we're done talking about it. But you know, it was, if you weren't able to go, it was a business decision. You know, a lot of people made a business decision. It was, you know, it was going to be up in the air of what was going to happen. Production's a challenge. That was one of the main reasons for us. Was I got X number of millions of dollars of cigars on back order. Yes, I want to go have the social aspect of it, the interaction, the face-to-face with this large group of retailers in one place. But also at the same time, the biggest benefit for some of these manufacturers that weren't there, other than really the big four, was, hey, you know, seeing Lito would have been a great thing, but having Lito get his cigars to you was a better thing. So they were really focused on that, and obviously like to see things improve and then whatnot with the show. And I do have a couple questions on that. But my first question I have for you is, compared to 2019, you had some pretty, I would say, obnoxious neighbors in 2019. Did you find that you were more? Did you find you were more or less productive in 2021, being the next show, with their absence, and specifically their vice president of sales not being present next year?
Honestly, it was a huge benefit to us this year, because the problem with that company, the vice president likes to come over and chat, and he always has interesting stories about free-throw competitions with former NBA players and all sorts of things to talk about. And I get pulled away, and I'm not able to, be in state and have my game face on, and
Sure.
I get pulled out of it. I don't know if it's a technique,
Sure.
to get me out of my, my zone, but he's very effective at that. And so I was much more focused and dedicated this year than I have been.
Good.
So
Good.
Terrence, I have a question. I have a question for you. So did said vice president of that company ever offer to take you out to dinner any of the nights you were there?
He did.
He did. All
He
right, so
did. He took me. Actually, he was very generous. I went out with him and the Coronas crew. My voice, every year, as you heard this year, my voice goes to pot by day 3 or so. And I sounded like, I was dying, or I was chewing gravel or something. But he was kind enough to have me join for a delicious dinner, and I got to hang out and smoke some great LaFleur cigars. And he's always very good to me. Again, it's kind of like, it's like my relationship with, a lot of different vices. It's like you love them, but they can overwhelm you at times. And
Exactly.
when you're on the floor, being next to somebody like that really takes you off your game with their stories and their excitement and their persona, overshadowing you. So it's very,
Truly,
it's tough.
Yeah, it's very dynamic, very dynamic. So on a serious note, by the way, it was very much more. I remember I was in the free throw contest, and it was that first day of the show in 2019 was slow. It was a slow first day. The second day, I think, over in our area, I remember it vividly because I played in that free throw contest and then a 3-on-3 tournament over at the Ace Prime booth.
Yeah.
And I remember I won the tournament and I came straight back, and I'm like, I was on cloud 9 because I beat Dominique Wilkins at free throws. So I any booth that was in striking distance of our booth was got to stop by. But that first day of the show was slower that 2019 than it was in 2018. So it's nice to hear that there was strong energy on that first day, which I think is probably expected, since this is the first time a lot of people were able to get out of the retail shops and get to a function. For us, you and I, we traveled quite a bit over the last year still. So, you got to see when we go into places that people were, gunning to try to get to something like that. My question for you is, I think there's a lot of positive energy around the show. I think there was some negative energy at the end of the show that we won't get into because it was irrelevant. That stuff to me wasn't important, and it was no harm, no foul.
I'm Switzerland.
I'm up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So do you think the positive energy was a result of adjustments and changes that the PCA had made to the show? Because there's a lot of people like, the show footprint was different. Or do you feel like the footprint being different was mainly because the manufacturers were scaling back on what their presentation was going to be?
So I can speak for us, is that, number one, you take those 4 big booths away, that obviously has an impact. And then again, you have a decent sized booth. There's other companies that didn't go that have decent sized booths. So that obviously has an impact. We were going to scale the booth back a little bit anyway. And that allowed us, we justified that in 2 ways. One is that it's, again, TPE in 2019, when I was there, we had a kiosk, and we didn't do PCA business, but we did pretty good business. And I think the traditional model of having a big booth with a bunch of chairs and couches and everything where people sit down, that's really from the olden days when people didn't see anybody except there. So if you wanted to maintain your relationship with you or Lito or whoever, they kind of had to come in and sit down, and you talk about your families and how are you and great to see you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for making great cigars. And you'd spend 20 minutes just doing all that before you got to an order or anything like that. And now with FaceTime, with Zoom, with what we're doing right now, you can talk to anybody anytime you want, any time of the year. So for us, the show is like, come in. let's write business, and then let's go out and have a drink after and have a great time after. But let's just take care of business while we're here. And so that was kind of the idea of shrinking down the booth a little bit. And that was really effective. It also, by that savings, allows us to justify deals. Just, again, we're also, producing a lot of cigars. We're getting back orders. And so there's the argument, well, what would you give any deals for? We're selling on everything you make. And you say, well, listen, we're saving some money on booth space. And in the long run, things aren't going to last forever, and people are coming out to the show. We got to give them a reason to come by and visit us and have some special stuff and have some deals. And so that was kind of the idea behind that is to utilize that money to give deals and to be more efficient in terms of doing business. Did that answer your question, or did I?
Yeah, he answered it for me.
I was just waiting for John
So, I mean,
to follow up on that.
In synopsis, it was really the manufacturing changes that really made the adjustment to the way the show appeared.
Yeah.
Initially out. I don't think the PCA had enough time or enough manpower or woman power to get that done in that way. So I think now you'll see some of those changes with some scaled back booths. And it just makes more sense. It just naturally, we're not that big of an industry. I've always said this. The trade show turned into a stadium tour when we're really an arena type industry is what I've said. We just don't need those monstrosities. Yeah, it looks great and it's excellent, but it doesn't make anybody more money. It doesn't make anyone any more money, and it certainly doesn't raise any more funds, which this PCA show is the largest fundraising activity that the PCA does. And really the bigger show floor, the bigger this, they made the same amount of money, if not less. And then the casino and the trade show companies make more.
Yeah, no, I think it just makes sense.
The the trade show this year was notably, much smaller, and the booths are smaller. There was obviously less people there. Terence, and John too. I mean, you guys have been going there for years. I know, John, you weren't there, but Terence, you were at the show. Was it shocking to see for you, especially as a manufacturer and as an exhibitor, to see the show floor that first night on Friday, when everyone kind of saw it that first time? Because I know a lot of other people, going to the show were like expecting it to be small, but once they got there, they were like, it's even smaller than I thought it would be.
Well, I think part of that is that it could have been, and again, the PCA has, I think, 3 full-time employees for a major trade show during COVID, when who knows what the rules are going to be and everything else. So to me, anytime I had a question, I would call Aaron or I'd talk to Scott. They were awesome. So they had their hands full, and I think they did a great job.
They did
with what they were working with. That said, yeah. I mean, I think they could have hid. I think that the shock could have been limited a little bit with some walling or something like that. They could have done some things like that. I mean, ultimately, what made it positive for me really was I think Scott and Aaron and that whole team made a lot of it. They did small things like at the last day they went around and gave out beers to people to have. They were trying to do a lot of things to make it a fun environment, and I think the retailers, generally speaking, were very positive, and they came in. They were there. They weren't there just window shopping. They all came in supported. There were some retailers I haven't seen in years at a PCA or a show, whatever it was. Again, I still go to IPCPR. I'm dating myself. I used to always get mad at my uncle for calling it the RTDA because I was like, that hasn't been called that in 20 years, and now I'm doing the same thing. But I thought that the energy in the room was really good for me. Again, I'm on an island. I'm like, I'm kind of like Tom Hanks in Castaway. I'm like stuck on this island so I really don't see anyone else's booth other than the people around us.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Terence. I was literally just about to say, because Matthew said something like, "Oh, I know you weren't at the show this year." I actually knew more that was going on at the show this year than I did when I'm actually at the show.
Yeah, I'm sure you know more than me.
Yeah, I watched all the media, everybody's media outlets.
Yeah.
I was talking to Matthew and Nicole almost daily.
Yep.
I was still working, and so I was still talking to retailers that were either at the show or not. And then I was interacting with manufacturers through their social media stuff. And when I'm physically there, and when you said you're on your island, it's like everything's going on around you, but you're really centrally focused on what's going on in your little area for the whole show. So it was so funny with this show, for me, watching it from the outside in, I had my hand on the pulse of, on everything that was going on. Whereas, it usually takes me a month or so after the show to either get caught up what happened in my booth, let alone what happened everywhere else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, you probably have way more knowledge of what was going on. Again, like, oh, some booths didn't do well. I didn't even know any of that. Like, I literally didn't leave my booth till day 4, and that was mostly to go over to the La Polina booth to be on their lockdown show, and then I was back in my booth. So, I just saw. Across from us was Dwahe, and they were obviously busy, as they always are. And then most of the booths around us look busy all the time, but that's as far as I can tell you. I can't really say anything else other than for ourselves and the people around us.
Yeah, even for us, we were roaming the whole show floor like the whole time because that's what we had to do. But even for us, like, we were so busy, just in that after the show was over and I had time to like kind of step back and like look at what everyone else did and see like all the other coverage, and like there was booths that I don't even remember seeing at the show because we were just like going around. Like it wasn't even like, oh wow, look at this. It was like, all right, we got to get to here, we got to get to here, we got to get to here, we go here. There's a panel going on. It was just constant running around and like being focused on our current task at hand. That like, even like I'll admit, like there was stuff like like halfway would post like a booth and I was like, I don't even remember seeing that booth there. Like where were they? Like who were they next to? Ooh, like I didn't even know they were there, because it's just like It gets you, even though it was a smaller footprint of a show. I would say it was still a busy show. I think that, and Terence, as someone who sold and took orders at the show, I would say it's a very fair statement to say that while it was a smaller show, the people who came, like in terms of retailers and whoever to buy, they came to buy. There was
and the energy was really good.
Yes,
that's the biggest for me. That's always the biggest factor in things is like, what's the energy level at? Like I did it. I attended. I shouldn't say I did. I wasn't part of the event, but with Mr. Carney at there's a local cigar bar that's nearby where I live that I enjoy hanging out at, called the Galeano Cigar Bar. And in December they did a La Flor Dominicana event. And again, there was cooking meat, and they have the TV up there. You guys did a show, I think, from there, and there was a pack with like a Christmas. Again, like the energy of the event was really good, and so that sometimes you can have a good event potentially, but the energy is bad, or you can have a bad. It's for me, it's more about the energy level. Are people excited? Are people like energetic? And that's how I always judge these things. Is that and for me, with the people I were seeing, were very energetic. They were very enthusiastic, and I think that's a good sign. Whereas if it had been the exact same thing and everyone was kind of like, well, this is going to be the last show, I would have said, man, this is probably done with if people are behaving this way, even if the business was exactly the same.
So that's an interesting topic that you bring up, because Nicole and I were on another show earlier this week, and the question was asked to each one of us, do you feel that this was the last trade show? I didn't think so, and Terence, I don't think it sounds like you do either, and John, I think you also don't think that it was the last show.
No, absolutely not. I think it was a positive situation. Honestly, they released their financials here. There was a story that came out a couple weeks ago. Obviously, they had a loss. But even if there's enough money in the bank to have losses for at least another year or two and still have that show, which it seems like this was a good start to righting the ship. Mm-hmm. It's going to have to be righted. I think there's good people involved in it, all around with great intentions. So I think you're going to see an improvement there. They'll have opportunities to have other money, and revenue raising activities this year because COVID's not going on. That there won't be the downsizing in their staffs because there's not as much uncertainty from the contributors to the finances of it. So I think it's in a positive spot, and there's no way in my opinion, there's no way there's not going to be a PCA show in 2022. And then if it goes right, it should be a great opportunity to financially make it very viable year after year again.
Yeah, I said this earlier, like on the other show. We were on How About That Cigar with Garrett and Matt. And I had said, my opinion is, I think it was a good start. I think it wasn't a horrible show. There's definitely things that they need to improve on. I think that they have the potential to do so. I think that, this was a as we said, this was a quickly put together show. It was 100 days they put it together with 3 full-time staff. They're going to get a little bit of a mulligan just for that. That's tough to do. And they still put on a show that happened and worked. Having said that, going into next year, hopefully, things stay, on the up and up with, the global stuff that's going on. They have more time to fully prepare for a show, and, I would say my opinion on it is, yes, there will be a show next year, but I think that it'll be important for them to make a lot of these changes for next year. And next year should be that show where a lot of new things happen, a little bit more organization, and things are different, and really will give us the tone for how the show continues in the future. I think next year is important for the PCA if there's that circle of doubt of like, okay, whatever, you could pick any issue. I think next year is the year where they answer those questions, they make some changes. Maybe they don't fix everything, and that's fine. But if they start to do some things different and make some changes, and it sets the tone, like, all right, well, you know what, they made these things better, that was better, this was different, there wasn't so much of that. Okay, things are going in the right direction. I think that'll be huge for them to kind of set that tone, like, you know what, the ship's changing, we're getting it right on course. I think that'll be huge. So that's what I'm excited to see for next year, is just kind of like, where do they go from here? Just so that we can kind of see, years out, what the prediction is. And hopefully, John, we get to see you back with La Flor Dominicana at next year's show too. Hopefully things are a little bit better for you guys next year, and you guys will be able to make that trip. So because it'll be exciting to see La Flor Dominicana back at the trade show floor.
The more people there, the better. I mean, again, obviously when there's a company that's not there, that's in the short term potentially beneficial for us because it's time that they can potentially spend with us. But in the long term, you want as many of the guys there as possible. The big four you want back. I mean, in my opinion, not that it's worth anything, the more people we have partaking in it, the better for everybody, and certainly for the long term.
Absolutely, 100%.
So I forgot, we do have a little bit of news this week that I want to get to, and I'm curious to see what each of you guys have to say on this. And we'll try to keep it brief. It's a little, it could be a full conversation, but our news is brought to you by McAuliffe Cigars. McAuliffe Cigars. Head over to McAuliffeCigars.com and become an ambassador today. Be part of the brethren of the McAuliffe ambassadors. Our news that we have this week is about the Federal Appeals Court sharply rejects cigar industry's appeal in the FDA lawsuit. I'm sure both of you guys are familiar with this story. John, I'll start with you, I guess. What's your take on this, and where do you think this lands us now?
Well, it doesn't really change anything. So it was kind of, I think that's also part of the reason why it was all knocked down, was because it really didn't change anything that was going on, and it was stuff that had already been settled. I guess I guess that's what the appeals process is, but there was really nothing new in it. So I think the most important thing is it doesn't essentially change anything. Would have been a huge victory, absolutely. I mean, it would have been a huge win. Out of this world, there would have been a grand slam, in my opinion, just because it was, would have essentially changed a lot of the requirements and the whole deal. It would have been just a big win, but it wasn't a massive loss. I mean, it was a loss, but it was like a regular season loss, in my opinion. It wasn't like an NBA Finals game six up against the wall. You're going to lose type thing, and then you're out. So for me, I looked at this like a regular season loss. I don't like losses, but it didn't really change a whole lot for anybody.
Right.
Yeah. And Terence, what would you kind of echo the same thoughts?
Yeah,
or?
I would echo the same thoughts. I think it's, again, there's all these. This was, for better or worse, nothing really changes.
Yeah, I see Coops in the comments with us too, and he writes, "How bad a job have our trade organizations have been on their dead silence on this defeat?" Crickets.
Always taking a turn to negative town. Taking a turn.
But here's the thing. I want to know, like, who. This is a challenging thing, but they've been short-staffed. So, like, if they weren't good at it before, they're certainly not going to be good at it now when they have half as many people there, which is not a good thing by any means. But It's not shocking to have poor information on it from the trade associations. They've never been great at it, so I wouldn't expect, hey, you guys weren't great, so we're going to cut your team in half, and then we're going to have expectations of you.
And
My expectations are low in that, but I do hope the addition of like Lynn Loop, they got Joshua Abersky out there, who they're really, promoting in the social scene and in the media scene. So I really hope that does change going forward, where there's more information on that. But hats off to the media side of it for really getting involved and providing that information. And I think a lot of people in the industry go to those media outlets to get that, to get that information. So it's a great thing for you that the traffic's going there rather than going to these trade associations. I would like to have more from them. Obviously, it'd be nice, but I don't think there's a lack of information getting out there on these types of situations because of what the media is doing, the media efforts from it. And I don't think it's alternative media now. This is from Half Wheel, Coop. How about the cigar? The Developing Palace guy talk about a lot of stuff. We get involved in some of it to an extent. We're not writing articles on it over here, but there is a lot of that out there. So congrats to you guys, and thank you for keeping people informed that way. As there are some shortcomings in the trade associations.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably something that'll come up on this week's episode of Spare Notes series with myself and Coop. But Coop is in the comments, and he's getting fired. I can tell this is a big issue for him, and I'm sure you'll hear a lot more. And I'm reading people are paying for this fight. They need to know the results. This isn't a small item. This was a costly appeals process to have nothing. And I get it. I understand his frustration, and it's. I mean, I get it, and it's important to mention and to bring up, and.
I'd rather talk about Gabe Kapler, quite frankly. I'd rather be talking about Gabe Kapler.
But here's the thing.
We can.
If you want to settle down, I mean, whenever you go into any type of legal action, you're not just going to have wins after wins after wins. Just because you throw money at it doesn't mean it's going to win. So every time that you have a loss, it'd be great. But, I mean, at the end of the day, we're in a really heavily attacked industry because of the nature of our product. I'm not, it's been exponentially proven that this is not a very dangerous product for public health. Public health impact almost nil, in their own words. But I mean, it's always going to be an attacked area, and everything's always going to cost money, and we're going to lose some stuff. And yeah, it is costly, but would it be more costly to not appeal, to just accept it? And then at the end of the day, I don't know, does the PCA reporting on it and giving us more information on it make it less costly? I don't know. I don't think it makes it less costly. It would just be more people informed about it. But being informed is important, and I think that's a topic everyone can agree on. We wish that the trade associations and organizations in this industry were more informative about that information. It's been a discussion for over 10 years that I've been in the cigar business. Obviously, there's something about our trade organizations. Maybe it's the size, the scope of what they're able to do. They're just not very good at it, and I don't know if there's any way to change that without ripping it up and making it completely different. And maybe that's an option. Maybe that's something needs to happen. But if you're waiting for them all of a sudden to be super informative on things after 9 and 10 years of discussing it, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think Coop's biggest thing was it's not just the fight itself. I think he really wants to hit on the communication too, based on some other comments. And Mark Vansland, right too, says the same thing. The lack of messaging is definite. And I think that's one thing that I know Coop had mentioned a lot. We were at PCA, was just the lack of communication, even with a lot of things.
But it's been that way forever.
Right.
So they obviously got a challenge with it. So like how are the adjustments? Like what do they actually need to do, and then who needs to be in place to do that? And they're obviously not good at it, and that's just one of the things.
Right. I mean, I think that's a change that they should make. Just for everyone's sake. At least kind of communicate as to what is going on. Where is all the money that they do get? How is it used, and not just we have a lawsuit. Okay, well, like what give us some more information on it. I mean, I think that for some people that information is more important, and maybe it should be conveyed more.
I'll give you the information right now. It went to the lawyers. That's where the money went. So where did it go for the lawsuit? It went directly to the legal team. That's exactly where it went. There's nothing else there. I mean, that's it went to the legal team.
Right.
Period.
I'm trying not to let Coop take over the show. He's continuing to comment as much as I love Coop. If I keep reading his
He's
comments,
got his own show. He's
I
got
know.
like 4 or 5 hour shows. Can we have our own show here, please?
Well, then he's got a show with Matthew
On Saturday.
He's got over the weekend, and I can sit over there. But I'm just saying that's where the money went. So there's not like some conspiracy theory behind it. That all the money that they're making is going towards this legal fight for the most side. And they just released their financials. So if you want information about where that money went, they told you. They just told you, and everybody reported on it. I saw it on all the sites. So there's the information. Yes, could they be more informative? Could they be better at it? Yes. Have they been good at it? No, they've not been good at it for 9 years that I've been around as a VP of sales, and they weren't. I guess they weren't great at it before there either. So yeah, that's an area that they need to improve at, and they just haven't had the opportunity to. I think that's a big important side of it. But them staying in business as a nonprofit representing this industry is significantly more important.
Love you, Coop.
Yeah, Coop, we love you. I don't want you to. You bring some good content to the show. I mean, I'll say that. I mean, you have valid stuff. I'm not trying to take away from that, but what I will say is what we should be doing is we should be telling people if they want to hear more about this, they can tune in and listen to us talk about it on Saturday night on the Spare Notes Show live on Facebook and YouTube. So keep an eye out for that there on Saturday night with myself and Will Cooper. We can also talk about Terence. We can talk about how awesome of a manager Gabe Kapler was in Philadelphia. Yeah. It's just one of the best.
And how well he's doing in San Francisco, where he has people around him who appreciate his innovative managing and coaching techniques. That are not so small-minded. But I don't want to get into that right now. We can talk about that later.
I will leave you with this, though. Can you imagine if the Giants won a World Series and Gabe Kapler's up there and he's got the trophy and all that, and Coop's just at home going, shouldn't be him. Just should be him.
I honestly, I'm a huge Red Sox fan, and I would almost prefer that they win the World Series with Kapler as manager. Just for that reason.
Just to spite Coop.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we all know that that's literally not going to happen. I mean, he's a great record manager. I liked him I liked him when he played with the Red Sox.
He was a great utility player, man.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He was jacked. He was probably on steroids.
Oh, he went to Japan for a year. Went to Japan and came back half the size.
Yeah. So he looked the part. So it was cool. But yeah, he's a wretched manager. They're not winning. Nobody's winning a World Series with that guy.
So you in Coop's pocket?
Nah, some things are facts in life, and I think that's just one of them. I don't hate Gabe Kapler the way he does, but I'm also not a Philly fan, so I don't generally hate myself in general.
So, John, I see you got your backdrop set up. You got a soap for us. I almost forgot about that. So let's get to Carney's soap review.
So in honor of our friends at JC Newman, who are now our new studio sponsors, and in honor of their American cigar, I have the Freedom Fresh Dr. Squatch soap here. Here's the soap.
She's a beaut, Clark.
Let's see, close enough. So, yep.
Well, there you go.
There we go.
There we go. Cool looking soap.
This is Red Root Tea. It's a 5-ounce bar. This is zero grit, so we got no grit in it. The zero grit is very smooth. The high grit is the ones like the pine tar, which happen to be my favorite. And this is a seasonal. And this apparently smells like the Squatch, is what he says. But here we go. I'm going to say, out of all the soaps I've had so far from, this is the one that smells the most soapy. So think of a traditional soap smell. This does have a traditional soap smell to it, but obviously a really nice red, white, and blue swirl. But very soapy smell. One thing I will warn you all, and if those that have been watching the soap reviews here religiously, I traditionally don't like in Dr. Squatch the low grit soaps. I prefer the high grit. So this is going to be interesting, but I do like the outside of it. So I'm going to get my hands wet here. I've got my handy bucket here. Got some water here from the pool. So we got that going. We get that wet. We're going to get the bar wet.
Ooh, I like the noise too. You hear the soap. You hear that soaping noise.
So we got a lot of foam going on here. It's really nice, real traditional, really classic Dr. Squatch foam.
Good lather.
So good foam here. Yeah, really good lather. The thing I like about Dr. Squatch is it's not real greasy, but I'll say this one is a little greasier. Not bad, but it's a little greasier, and it smells very traditional soap here. Real subtle essential oils if there are any in here. And this, Squatch, I will say they are a big company, but I would throw them into the way they produce their products. Is like a boutique soap, craft soap. So they do stick with that. It's all natural ingredients, not a lot of extra stuff added in it. But yeah, we got a great lather. You can see here, really good.
Ooh, look at that. That's
Yeah.
solid.
So we're gonna go in
A
here.
lot of foam.
Couple dips. I mean, 2 dips and the soap's gone off there, which is real nice.
Yeah, that is. You don't want that clingy soap.
No. But I can't get over the scent here. The scent is very traditional bar soap. Man, I'm going to go, appearance-wise, this is one of my favorites. Obviously, red, white, and blue, big part of my life. It's in regards to soap, there's no overwhelming scent, which is okay, but there's nothing defining about it. If you gave this to me and had me sniff it, I'd say it was a regular bar of soap. I'm happy with the lather on it. I am happy that it cleaned off real easy. And the cleanliness is nice. So I'm gonna go 6.8. 6.8. This is my least favorite Squatch so far, other than I think the goat's milk one that we did.
Oh
in that
yeah.
booth. I think there was like goat's milk one or whatever. I don't know if I gave that a lower score than that, but I'm gonna go 6.8 on this. The Freedom Fresh, but it is a great soap. I mean, it's. I've used this already. I've showered with it. Showering is a shower soap. It's awesome. So I really did enjoy that. The high grit soaps have a little bit less length. They last a little bit less. They don't last quite as long. This one the bar I had here, I've actually used twice, and it was with showering, so it was nice to have that. But and it does last well. Looks nice. There's not a lot of color bleed on it. Like I had the pine tar soap's got charcoal in it, and that gets real black and gets all over the place. But it's nice. But it's a good soap. 6.8. 6.8 for the Freedom Fresh.
I just wanted to point out, we got Jay Davis commenting, from the soap opera that is our industry, we now have the soap segment, which I thought was really appropriate for this. So I threw that up there. But yeah, no, while we're on the topic of soaps, I have my own sets of soaps I use regularly at home that I like to use. But when you travel, sometimes you get caught up in using the hotel soaps when you run out of the stuff you bring. And I gotta say, on the subject of PCA and soap, while we were staying in the Venetian last week, the soaps that are in the room, I expected better of such a luxury hotel. They claim to be a 5-star hotel, casino, resort. And the soaps in the room,
weren't 5-star.
they were lucky if they were 2. I mean, there was no lather to them. I mean, I got them under the water. I'm scrubbing, and I was just scrubbing a wet bar of wax. I mean, there was no suds coming off of that.
What about the lather?
No lather either. I mean, it was like just rubbing it was like rubbing yourself with wax. I mean, there was just nothing there. I had to, just to wash my hands in the sink, I had to go and steal some shower gel. It was the only thing I could get to really, lather and soap up. It just didn't do it for me. So yeah, I had to throw that in there. I figured this was appropriate time.
So I do have a little bit of information to give on the soap review here. After post soap review, I touched my laptop. And my laptop was giving me an electric charge through my hands. So I did a quick Google here. And if anybody ever has this happen with their MacBook Pro, whether your MacBook Pro is new or old, it's possible that when plugged into a power outlet, you may feel an electrical tingling sensation in your hands. This means that your MacBook device is not properly grounded and electricity is using you as a route to the ground. While this isn't always dangerous, it can be extremely uncomfortable when working on your device, which it was. Many people experience this problem out of the box as a result of the problem with their wire or outlet, while others may experience after a longer period of time using a laptop. And so you can Google online of ways to solve it, but I just unplugged my cord from the side there and it stopped. But if you've ever had that issue and you feel electricity coming out of your MacBook, especially after a soap review, unplug your side of your computer and make sure you're properly grounded.
I just wanted to bring up this comment right here from Mike, who said Matt knows electric, which I think is a fair statement to make. But I always enjoy learning something different from John. I think that was interesting, and that was the science segment brought to you by La Flor Dominicana, LFD, the home of the Ligero. Thank you for that, John. Always got to leave our friends got to bring our friends from La Flor Dominicana into the show somehow. Especially when John's here, can't leave him out. But guys, as we wind down towards the end of the show, is there anything else you guys wanted to bring up, maybe that you had on your own, had on your plate that you wanted to use this platform to express? I'll start with Terence, who's our guest.
No, we just please stay in touch. But we got a YouTube channel. Subscribe. Aganorsa Experience. Our Facebook and Instagram pages. Aganorsa Leaf. We've got a nice group. Aganorsa Acolytes on Facebook. It's please stay in touch. We'd like to hear from you, and that's about all I can tell you.
It's a great group.
Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for having me. Yeah.
Terence, thank you for joining us as always. I mean, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show, and anytime we get to talk and hang out, it's always a privilege for me, and I appreciate all the time you've given us here at Smokin Tabacco. Just to talk over cigars. I really do. It's always a great time. John, I know that you have a gourmet smoke session coming up next week in Rhode Island. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we've got a gourmet smoke session Wednesday, July 28th, with our friends at Regency Cigar in East Greenwich, Rhode Island. That will be celebrating their 25th anniversary during that gourmet smoke session. So you can catch it live on Facebook and YouTube through Hacking Gourmet and LFD Cigars. So we'll have that going on. So that'll be really exciting. And that's what I got going on next week. So that'll be great. It'll be fun. It's been just about a month, I'd say, since our last gourmet session. So it'll be a little over a month at that time. So looking forward to it with our friends at Regency Cigars. It should be a great time.
There's so as I said before, don't forget to check us out on Saturday night. As Coop and I will be doing the Spare Notes series, episode number 3, I want to say, where we're going to get into a lot of other stuff that was brought up on the show earlier and whatnot, and PCA and some other stuff. So don't forget to check that out. Also, Terence brought up the Aganorsa group on Facebook. We have our own group, as you guys might know, the Smokin Tabacco Cigar Club. We decided to run like a little contest, a little giveaway contest. I wanted to highlight this for those who might not know. If you head over to our group, if you're a member, from now until Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern, we're doing a photo contest. Kind of like what Coop does in a way. It's a photo contest for social media, but it's not, in airports and planes. So it's just going to be an original, humorous cigar photo. Post it in the group on the page, tag us in it, or what have you. You get extra points if you highlight the Smokin Tabacco brand. One of the submissions we got already was from one of our members wearing one of our T-shirts from our online store at the Great Smoke with Carlos Fuente, which was really cool. So, again, Facebook, Smokin Tabacco Cigar Club group, 9 p.m. this Saturday night, deadline, and we have with 3 winners that will be picked, and I think we have some mystery cigar samplers that we'll be giving out to the 3 lucky winners. So don't know what you're gonna get, but it will be fun. It will be something good, and that's how you win. So go on there and check that out. Come up with some really cool stuff. You can use Terence Reilly as some inspiration for originality when it comes to photo contests. I know he has a lot of experience with that. You can take kudos from us. You can do a cutout of someone in the industry like Will Cooper, like we did. Which, by the way, while we're on the topic, Terence, you were there and you were obviously a part of this, but and I know John, you weren't there, but I think it was awesome that we got everyone together at the show, or most of the people. We got almost everyone we could to come together for that, because everyone saw it. It was kind of the talk of the show. And sign that poster for Coop. And if you haven't seen the video, it is posted up on our social media where we gave it to him, and he was really impressed. But I thought it was really cool because, Terence, I don't know if you watched the video, but somewhere in there, when we were showing to him, he's like, "Oh, who said something about Gabe Kapler?" And
I saw it.
Which Terence wrote on his signature. What did you write? Something about Gabe Kapler's the best manager?
Yeah, I can't believe you didn't know who did it right away.
Yeah, I was like, no, that was Terence Reilly, and he's like, oh yeah. I think it clicked, like, obviously. Yeah, I thought that was funny. I wanted to bring that up. That was really cool. But yeah, so photo contest, check that out. And as always, guys, find us on social media: Facebook, Instagram. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to us. Follow us anywhere you can get your podcasts. Sorry, I'm starting to lose my voice now. Yeah, follow us anywhere you get your podcast. For those listening at home, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. You can find us everywhere on Apple, Google, Pandora, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podbean, everywhere you get your podcasts. We're on there. Give us a follow, download us, listen to us. We really appreciate it. We have some cool stuff. With that, guys, I'm going to leave you with that. Terrence, thank you for coming on the show. John, as always, it's always a pleasure. And we'll see you guys all next week. So take care.
Take care, guys.